Everybody, and this morning we are diving deeper into the mayor's big budget announcement less than 24 hours ago. So it's fair to say people are still digesting the city's financial problems as well as the proposed solutions along with breakfast this morning. Austin Berg, Vice President of Marketing for the Illinois Policy Institute, is here to help us make sense of where we are and what this could mean for our pocketbooks from here. So we want to thank you for your time.
Of course. Glad to be here.
Let's go right into this. The rumors were true that after a full campaign of saying that we wouldn't have property tax increases, that wasn't on the table. Here we are in year two of a budget. 2025 budget includes a $300 million increase. And I'm sure it couldn't have been an easy decision. Definitely not an easy announcement for the mayor, but what do you think he could have or should have done instead?
Should have followed his promise. And you're exactly right. Over and over and over again during the campaign, including on Fox 32 debates. You guys have the footage. You have the receipts, as the kids say. He has said over and over and over he would not hike property taxes on Chicagoans. He abided by his promise in the first year. The second year, under pressure from his largest campaign donors, which are government unions, including the Chicago Teachers Union, his former employer, he completely folded over, and he's sticking it to taxpayers.
Yeah, and so Chicagoans already pay what feels like for so many people an exorbitant amount. It really is.
Yeah.
Some of the highest property taxes in the nation, but a sticking point for many aldermen appears to be the fact that we could have used some federal help last year, or at least it would have softened the blow or fixed the issue one way or the other, similar to what happened during Lori Lightfoot's administration. Can you explain that?
Well, the extent of the mismanagement kind of just adds more pain, insult to injury, I guess you could say, because this administration has done an absolutely horrible job of managing the city's finances. The real reason that this budget crunch is happening is because of something we all knew 2 years ago, which is that the federal money from COVID was going to run out. That was not an infinite piggy bank from which we could draw. Yeah. But yet, with that money, instead of shoring up our finances, the city went on a hiring spree. Chicago Public Schools went on a hiring spree at the encouragement, again, of these same government unions, including the Chicago Teachers Union, Brandon Johnson's largest campaign funder. And then when time came to make some tough decisions, to make some balanced decisions, Brandon Johnson went with his largest campaign donors, not with the people of the city of Chicago.
I mean, we say a hiring spree, but whether it's first responders or even a lot of schools, I mean, we just had the story the other day about so many schools not even having a librarian. I mean, hiring spree, but there are so many positions that are not filled right now.
Well, Chicago's school budget is just crazy. We have so much money that's going really to empty buildings, and we're funding buildings, not students. And so I have a hard time with these arguments, especially from the CTU, saying we need a librarian, we need a librarian, we need a librarian. Of course, we need to be able to provide kids the resources that they need to learn. But Chicago is spending $30,000 per student per year. If you were, or I sent our kid to a private school, $30K could buy some pretty good private schooling, right? So that means the money really isn't making it to the classroom. It's being cut up at every step of the way by government unions that are not interested in the outcomes of our students. They're interested in their own bottom lines. And guess what? They have a right to advocate for that. But it doesn't mean that the mayor should always side with his campaign donors.
Absolutely true. So your organization believes this proposed budget could cost the city in more ways than just higher property taxes. Where else do you feel like this proposal could affect the city the most?
Wow. I mean, you think about the exodus of people from the city of Chicago. We are a city that is not growing as fast as our peers. From 1870 to 1900, Chicago was not only the fastest growing city in Illinois or the Midwest or America, it was the fastest growing city in the history of the world. We are a long way from that, but we can get back to it if we get back to some common sense budgeting, start to lower taxes, attract business, and attract investment. If we keep sticking it to homeowners and politicians refuse to make tough decisions with their campaign donors, it's going to continue that sort of slow shrinkage of Chicago. We need to grow our way out of these problems, and we can with the right decisions.
Yeah, the growing is like, well, growing pains possibly. It felt like he was maybe kind of intimating at yesterday that we're in a season of growing pains to get there.
Well, he said something really odd to me, which was, he's always open to negotiating the details of his values. That was when reporters asked him, hey, didn't you promise over and over again that you weren't going to hike property tax? He said, I'm always willing to negotiate on the details of my values. Well, now's the time to really negotiate and sit down with the labor leaders of the city of Chicago and say, the people of Chicago are tapped out. We are seeing 20, 30, 40% property tax increases. Many on people with fixed incomes, people with disabilities, they are losing their homes because of these bills. So you need to sit down with the people who elected you and say, hey guys, it's time for us to make some sacrifices. That is not what the mayor is doing.
Well, speaking of negotiating, of course, by law, the budget has to be finalized by December 31st. We're going to all buckle up for the budget battle that we know is ahead during the month of November, during the hearings that are set to take place. So thank you so much again for being here. We appreciate your time.
Thanks for having me.
All right.